Today, we're jumping into this incredible story from the Gospel of Luke, using some amazing insights from Dr. Daniel Darko. It's really a tale of two super rich men, and it forces us to ask a question that's just as real today as it was 2,000 years ago. What's the actual difference between being wealthy and being worthy?
And it all kicks off with this one question. I mean, it's a heavy one, right? A really powerful, prominent guy asks it, and in doing so, he sets off this chain reaction that's going to challenge everything he, and honestly, everyone around him thought they knew about money, about status, and about what it really means to be a good person.
So our story begins with a man who, on paper, has it all figured out. He walks up to Jesus with probably the most important question anyone could ever ask.
What's so wild about this first guy is that by every single standard of his society, he is the perfect candidate. He's a ruler, an archon, a big deal in his community. He is loaded, extremely rich, and Dr. Darko points out that there's no hint that he got his money dishonestly. On top of that, he's incredibly devout. He's followed all the commandments since he was a kid. He's done everything right.
But then, Jesus just throws this total curveball at him. It goes way beyond just following the rules on a list. He says, sell everything you own, give it all to the poor, then you can come and follow me. Suddenly, this isn't about just ticking boxes anymore. It's a direct challenge to the one thing that defines this guy's entire life, his possessions.
So, the big question is, how does this seemingly perfect man react when he's faced with the ultimate test of what he truly values?
And his reaction is so telling. He doesn't get mad. He doesn't argue. He just gets really, really sad, and he walks away. His immense wealth, the very thing that made him a success in everyone's eyes, became the anchor he just couldn't cut loose. He's literally trapped by the thing he values the most.
You can just imagine the shockwaves this sent through the crowd. People must have been stunned. In their world, a rich, religious, powerful guy like this, he was as close to a sure thing as you could get. So if he can't make it, then who on earth can? The rules of the game just got flipped completely upside down.
All right, so now let's meet our second wealthy man. And I gotta tell you, the contrast is, well, it's about as stark as it gets. His name is Zacchaeus, and he is nothing like the first guy.
Now, to get Zacchaeus, you have to get his job. As Dr. Darko explains, tax collectors were basically social outcasts. They worked for the Romans, the occupying enemy, and their job was to squeeze tax money out of their own people. They were seen as traitors, as absolute sinners, and the money they made was considered dirty. This guy is the total opposite of the respected ruler we just met.
But just look at his actions. He doesn't just ask a question. He goes all out to find Jesus. He's too short to see over the crowd, so what does he do? He runs ahead and climbs a tree. That's a pretty humbling thing for a rich man to do. And when Jesus calls him down, his response is just pure joy. And then, get this, without even being asked, he offers to give half his money to the poor and pay back anyone he cheated 4 times over.
And this is where the genius of the story really shines through. Luke sets up this powerful, direct contrast between these two men. On the surface, you've got a saint and a sinner, but their actions reveal a much, much deeper truth.
Okay, let's just put them side by side. Both are rulers in their own way, and both are extremely rich. But one has honorable wealth and is super religious, while the other is a social sinner with despised wealth. And here's the key. The ruler's biggest obstacle was his own attachment to his stuff. Zacchaeus' obstacle was the crowd, the society that rejected him. And in the end, the guy who clung to his wealth walked away sad, and the guy who joyfully gave it away found what he was looking for.
But this whole theme of shocking reversals doesn't stop there. No, Luke very intentionally places another amazing story right in between these two encounters, and it perfectly sets the stage for Zacchaeus.
Dr. Darko calls this a moment of Lucan irony, and it's brilliant. On one hand, you have the disciples, Jesus' inner circle. He tells them point blank that he's going to Jerusalem to suffer and die, but the text literally says they could not grasp what was said. They just don't get it. On the other hand, you have a blind beggar, an outcast on the side of the road. He's never even met Jesus, but the second he hears his name, he immediately yells out, "Son of David, have mercy." The insiders are blind, but the blind outcast sees everything clearly.
So what's becoming crystal clear is that Luke is constantly lifting up the marginalized. The poor beggar, the hated tax collector. These are the ones who actually see who Jesus is. They're the ones who respond with this active, desperate faith. They become the unlikely heroes of the whole story. And to really drive this point all the way home, Jesus tells one last story right after he meets Zacchaeus, the parable of the 10 minas. And it's all about what you do with the things you've been given.
The setup is super simple. A nobleman gives his servants some money and basically says, "Do business with this until I get back." When he returns, he asks them what they did with it. The message couldn't be clearer. It's not about what you have, it's about what you do with it. Being a good steward is rewarded, but doing nothing out of fear gets you in big trouble.
And here's the payoff. The servant who did the most with what he was given is rewarded with authority over 10 cities. This ties directly back to our two guys, right? Zacchaeus immediately put his wealth to good use for others. The rich ruler, on the other hand, was so scared of losing what he had that he did nothing at all. One was a faithful steward. The other, not so much.
And this is the line that just ties it all together with a bow. Jesus says this right after Zacchaeus' transformation. He's basically declaring his mission statement. I came for the people that society has written off as lost. He's here for the outcasts, the sinners, the ones who know they need help, not the ones who think they've already got it all figured out. So in the end, Dr. Darko turns the question back on us. This ancient story, it's not just about some guys from the past, it's a mirror. It forces us to look at our own lives and ask, what are my blind spots? What am I clinging to so tightly that it stops me from seeing what really matters and from acting on it? Is it our money, our reputation, our pride? It's a heavy question, but one definitely worth thinking about.